To tour and play music as a career, you have to love music. When did your love and passion for music begin?
It began as far as I can remember, like as a child. Like when my mom would play Stevie Wonder records, I would just daydream about singing those records. And I just had a really good family friend who worked in the music industry. I would get sent hundreds of CDs at a time. I just would read every music magazine. I just was obsessed as a kid with music, pop culture. So for me, I wanted to play music, I wanted to create music, I wanted to write music. I wanted to be the bands that I saw in magazines. I started going to shows when I was 12, 13 years old. So,
what did your parents do for an occupation, and did that lead to any unique or funny stories growing up?
Yeah, well, my mom worked like all different kinds of jobs, but she was a really big record collector. So for me, collecting music I thought was like normal behavior. I thought everybody had hundreds and thousands of CDs and records in their house. So I'd go to a friend's house and be like, "Where's your music?" Like, what? Well, my parents don't collect records. I'm like, why not? And my dad, he worked construction his whole life since he was like 18, but he played in bands and he was a guitar player. And he'd always be like kind of giving me that advice of being like, you don't want to be a construction worker. Go get your college degree and all that kind of shit. And I didn't. But luckily, I was able to get him a platinum plaque. He's got it up in his living room now, so I think I shut him up.
We were talking before the interview about you love punk rock, some of the 90s stuff.
Yeah, totally.
How did the influence of punk rock play into the music you make?
Well, it was my first influence, if you really think about it, because I was like 12, 13 years old going to punk rock shows. Where I grew up, there was a venue called 7 Willow Street. I got to see H2O, Bouncing Souls, Rancid. We used to go to a place called Coney Island High, a venue called Tramps. We were sneaking in, you know, CBGBs. For me, all my friends were in punk bands. It was like the first like step. And it was like seeing people perform, the raw energy, being a part of it, being in the pit and being like, I want to be the guy on stage who was making these kids go. So it really was like my first hands-on inspiration. So I definitely have to give punk rock the credit for that.
We've seen a lot of tragedies in the United States the last couple of years with Sandy Hook in Colorado and tornadoes and hurricanes. Have you had any personal tragedies in your life you've had to overcome?
Wow.
And have you helped out with any of the tragedies we've had?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, you know, with the Hurricane Sandy was really destroyed New York, and I had a few friends who were in Queens who lost their houses, a few friends in Jersey who lost their houses. So we actually participated in a show at a radio station on the Jersey Shore for a fundraising concert that was at Pine Belt Arena in December, a month after everything had happened, and we raised a whole bunch of money to help people rebuild homes and the whole nine, and it was a really good cause. So I was really glad to be a part of that. And you know, for my friends, we raised a whole ton of money, and it was really kind of cool to just see people come together and kind of overcome tragedies. On a personal level, you know, I lost my first love. I lost over the past year. She passed away, which was a really sad thing because she was really young. So, you know, I was out on the road, and I just kind of had to. Well, I was working on records, so kind of gave me a weird inspiration to finish off the record and create and just kind of do it in her memory. So, you know, that was some really wild shit. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't really ever talk about it, so it's a good question. But, you know, you just kind of have to prevail in your own weird way, you know what I mean?
Our magazine has done a lot of work with the homeless in Los Angeles. My wife and I lived in a mission on Skid Row and ran an art program and trained other people to work with the homeless.
That's awesome.
You're from New York.
Yeah.
Have you had any experiences with the homeless?
I mean, on a daily basis, for sure. I mean, unfortunately in New York at this point, you become so immune to it. It's like, you know, standard procedure to just ignore, you know, and walk by, and that's unfortunate. When I was younger, I went to a prep school, so we used to actually have to work in a soup kitchen, like do community hours before you graduate. It was actually a very rewarding experience, getting a chance to meet people and see everybody's story. Everyone has a story, you know what I mean? It's easy to kind of just generalize somebody for living on the street, but there's a lot of interesting stories and a lot of interesting people that have just gone through some hardships. So
On Skid Row in Los Angeles, we found these people were at the lowest point of their life. There's 10,000 homeless living in a 9x9 block,
Right.
but they would claim Jesus as their savior.
Wow.
What is your perception of Jesus?
Wow. This is heavy. Well, I mean, I went to Catholic school my whole life. I went from first grade all the way to 12th grade. So I was raised to believe in like Roman Catholicism and all that stuff. For me, it didn't really kind of affect me in a way where I go to church on Sunday and, you know, there's just certain things that, I don't know, maybe it was just because it was so in front of me the whole time. But I do believe that there's some sort of higher power, but I don't know, I don't really think about it as much, it's not in my daily mindset for sure at all.
What are 3 records every kid should own?
Wow, okay, it's good. Well, probably gonna need at least one like Michael Jackson record, preferably, I would say Off the Wall, but I think we're gonna just be really standing here, so we're just gonna go Michael Jackson, Thriller, Tribe Called Quest, Low End Theory, Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions, probably gonna need a Bob Dylan record, Rolling Stones, maybe Jay-Z's Blueprint 1. I can sit here all day. That's really good.